Mayor, the meeting is now being recorded.
The meeting will now reconvene at 6:02 p.m. City Attorney, please provide the closed session report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The City Council is now back in open session, having met in closed session to discuss the two items listed on the agenda. Staff provided a report for both, but no reportable action was taken. This concludes my report. Thank you.
If there's no objection by City Council, I will now adjourn the closed session City Council meeting at 6:02 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the November 13, 2023, 6 p.m. regular joint meeting of the Bell Garden City Council and Successor Agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will now come to order at 6:03 p.m. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any of the members should have a conflict of interest, please announce any item you are recusing from due to the conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Tonight's invocation will be given by Minister Daniel and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Girl Scout Troop 2543.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Chief of Police, and City staff. Let us pray and remember that as we pray, we come before God's presence. Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father God, I come before you in this hour, and I thank you, Lord. We come before you as one body in this hour, Jesus, to thank you for your goodness, for your mercy, and for all of your blessings in this night, God. As your word says, that all knowledge and wisdom starts with the fear of the Lord. And I just pray, God, that you guide our leaders of this city, the leaders of our state, and the leaders of our nation. And we just pray that you, Father God, give the guidance, that you give the knowledge and wisdom needed to conduct this meeting. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Please stand. Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may now be seated.
City Clerk, please call roll of the members of the City Council and Successor Agency.
Yes, thank you. And for the record, Councilmember Pulido arrived at 5:15 p.m. Councilmember Barcena.
Present.
Councilmember Gomez.
Present.
Councilmember Pulido.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Present.
And Mayor Sanchez.
Present. We'll now move to the presentation. City Manager, please introduce the presentations.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. The first and only presentation we have today is to recognize November as National Family Caregivers Month. We have a proclamation that Mayor Pro Tem Chavez will read.
Thank you so much for that, City Manager. City of Bell Gardens Proclamation, a proclamation on National Family Caregivers Month. Whereas how we treat our children, parents, loved ones, and how we value those who care for them are fundamental to who we are as a nation. And whereas early care and education give young children a strong start in life, while long-term care helps older Americans, veterans, and people with disabilities live and work with dignity. And whereas during National Family Caregivers Month, we honor all family caregivers who lift up our communities by providing dignified, professional, and invaluable care to the people we cherish the most. And whereas many Americans are forced to leave their own jobs behind to care for their loved ones, no one should have to choose between the parents who raise them, the loved ones who depend on them, or the paycheck they rely on to care for their families. And whereas family caregivers are the backbone of our country, our city, caring for young children, aging parents, disabled veterans, injured service members, and others we need support and medical assistance. And whereas let us celebrate and honor our caregivers and renew our efforts to protect their dignity, health, and security, because when we care for our caregivers, we honor our American ideals and move closer to a future where no one in this nation is left behind. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Francis de Leon Sanchez, Mayor of the City of Bell Gardens, with the Bell Gardens City Council, do hereby proclaim the months of November as Family Caregivers Month and encourage all residents of Bell Gardens to reach out and support those who provide care for our family members, friends, and neighbors in need, to honor and thank them. Signed, proclaim this 13th day of November 2023. I'd like to briefly introduce the organization that reached out in regards to this proclamation, their Service Employment International Union Local 2015. And I'd like to introduce the organizer with that union, Erika Aguilar. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you, Vice Mayor Jorge and Mayor Francis and the council for the recognition on behalf of SEIU 2015. We represent 400,000 statewide long-term care workers, and I want to present our fellow co-workers fellow home care workers here that reside here in Bell Gardens to come up. Yes, as it is the work of the workers that really are a backbone to healthcare, which is healthcare is already expensive industry as itself, and home care and caring for our loved ones, whether it's family members or non-family members, it's essential within our country. And I just want to give recognition to the daily work that they do as home care workers and healthcare workers. It's emotional work, and also very, it takes everything. Taking care of a loved one, and it's something it's nationally and crosses all cultures. So I want to present Ms. Patricia Bedoya to present some words.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Patricia Bedoya, and I am a home care worker, and I take care of my dad. And I've been a resident here in Bell Gardens for more than 27 years. And I'm a proud member of Bell Gardens, and I'm proud of you, Jorge, for everything you've done in the city. And we thank you, and I'm just here to represent SEIU Local 2015 and of course we represent. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maricela Aispuro, and I've been here on the city of Bell Gardens 28 years, and I've been a home worker for 13 years.
Good evening, council members. I've been for the city of Bell Gardens for 40 years. I am a provider for my mom, 8 years, going on 8 years, and just here to represent.
To get the attention of the legislators. So I'm going to repeat, it is a lot of work, a lot of care, a lot of compassion, but when we're paid, they really don't see us as for the work that we actually do. It's very difficult, and it's important to us that the legislators actually notice us, pay attention to us, not just do proclamations for Family Caregivers Week or month, but to actually recognize what we do.
Open it up for the council, kind of see if anybody wants to share some words before they come up to the front.
Good evening. Buenas tardes. I really do want to commend you for the work that you do. It is not easy work. It can certainly be better paid work, and the compassion that you have to have is it's you have to really have endless compassion for the people that you work for. And it's not, a lot of times it isn't your family members. A lot of times it's people that you don't know, but they become family to you after taking care of them for so long. So thank you so much. And I do definitely agree with you that this is a really undervalued and underpaid skill that you have. And I encourage everyone to reach out to their legislators and to support a living, a dignified wage for the work that you do.
Hello. I want to really thank you for what you do for our residents. There are many cultures out there, and they all believe in different beings that protect them, like angels. And when I see you here, you're like a real life angel, because you take care of people that can't take care of themselves, and even better, you're part of their own family. So you're setting the example for our families, for our communities, and even an example for us elected officials. I feel I look up to you, I admire you, and more importantly, I thank you, and I acknowledge that we need to do better. So any chance that I get to support, I will do so. My mom was a caregiver for the later part of my dad's life, and she took care of him at home. He was disabled. He couldn't do a lot of things himself. So I have seen it firsthand, but I know how important it is beyond my household, right? I see how important it is in our communities, in our cities. And without you guys, life wouldn't be the same. So I want to really, really thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here and sharing how long you've either been a resident or how long you've been a caretaker. I know that that's a very difficult job, but it's also a job of servitude. And so you being selfish and giving of yourself to care for somebody else is very commendable. So thank you so much.
So again, I'd like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues on this. Really appreciate all the work that you do, the commitment to our community, the amount of patience that it takes to work with a lot of the folks that you guys are caring for, the relationship you build, taking them to the grocery store, providing them with their meds. Some of them have doctor visits, multiple doctor visits in a day, in a week or so. It's all essential work. And as a son of someone who caretook two and couple of individuals already here within the community, definitely does not go unseen, your work to our community and our residents. So again, a pleasure to be here to share this National Family Caregivers Month. And always remember that this proclamation right here, at least for the coming years, will continue to support this. So again, appreciate every single one of you. And if possible, I'd like to invite you to the front so we can take our picture. Thank you.
hearing is for a resolution of the city council to establish a new rental registration fee for rental units. This is pursuant to the rent stabilization and tenant eviction protections ordinance that has been adopted by the council about a year ago. With that, I will turn it over to our Community Development Director, Gus Romo, to go through presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. And a brief presentation for you here. So tonight's meeting is a public hearing on adopting a resolution to establish a rental registration fee for the city. If you recall, about a month and a half ago, we had a cost study in front of you. And this cost study was the result of the actual ordinance being adopted and becoming effective in October of 2022. So based on that cost study, we went forward and identified two different options for coming up with a fee for rental registry. So as I indicated, on October 12th of 2022, that's when our ordinance became effective. That ordinance called out for a rental registration program so that everyone that has rental units in the city of Bell Gardens can go ahead and register them with all the information that we need, all the tenant information and so forth, and pay a fee, an annual fee per unit. In order to identify what that fee is going to be, a cost study or a nexus study had to be done to be able to say, what is the cost of putting this together? Also, how many staff members do we need and so forth? So the ordinance itself requires this registry. So it's something that we need to do to be in compliance with the city's ordinance. A rental registry fee will fund a cost to implement the entire ordinance. And again, that includes staffing. And I need to note too, the ordinance also allows landlords to pass on half of the registry fee to tenants at their discretion. They don't have to, but again, the ordinance does allow for it. And in this case, we're looking at a fee of $156 per unit. So on an annual basis, you know, that broken down per month, half of that could be passed on to the tenant. Now, upon adoption of the fee, we initially anticipated September 30th to be the date that this fee would be in place. We're about a couple of months behind that. So what we're going to be doing is giving notice, at least 60-day notice to all of the landlords out there. Once the fee is adopted, we're going to be sending out a mailer. So everybody will have 60 days to pay. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't been registering, because we have been asking people to register. So we have, I would say, about 300 units registered already. However, we have quite a bit of units to go. So in order for us to get the full cost of the fee, which is a little over $1 million, we have to make sure that all the units out there are registered and they're all paying their fee. And the rental registry fee will be added to the city's miscellaneous fee schedule. So this is what the cost study had come up with. The city council had adopted best practices staffing plan. And that would project, and that's again what the $1,020,000 would pay for. So our step fund is intended to fully recover the costs of the staffing. And we anticipate, just like with other cities, that initially, first couple of years, you're probably going to get to about half of that, and the rest is going to have to be subsidized. But we're going to get to the goal of 80%, I would say, within year three, and then 100% within year 4 and so forth. And this is based on what our cost study consultant had indicated to us. So we want to establish 20% fund balance reserve to allow for annual revenue and expenditure variances. And also consider landlord fees to cover costs of petitions for rent adjustments and capital improvement pass-through. And also update the rent stabilization and tenant eviction protection fee study in a couple of years, or when more accurate rental unit data is available. So the next steps, the mid-year budget adjustment. As the mid-year comes up, we'd like to fully implement the RSTEP program. So we're going to be asking for that money to be put in there, the $1,020,000. And again, knowing very well that we have to go out there and identify the positions so we can pay for those positions and get the ordinance completely implemented. We're going to create and implement rental registry software. As you know, we came before you with a consultant to do a permitting tracking system. And that permitting tracking system is going to be done by a company called CitizenServe, will also include rental registry software. So in a sense, we're killing two birds with one stone there. And then, of course, creating the staff positions that I was just discussing and obtaining city council approval for those positions and commencing the recruitment. So that completes our presentation. I would like to note there is our STEP program report summary that we put in front of you. On there was a little typo. The minimum base staffing level and the best practices staffing plan, it should read 126 per unit and 156. The summary incorrectly said 127 and 153. But the cost study correctly identifies the 126 and 156. So just wanted to note that for the record. And that concludes our report. And I want to also let you know that our housing specialist, Ms. Veronica Jaramillo, is here with us tonight. And also our city attorney who helped us with this, Norma Tabares, is also on the panel. Thank you.
We'll now move to council member questions or comments. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments? I have a question. So you said that there's going to be notices sent out to landlords that they would have to pay in 60 days, right? Because we're behind on this, and that renters or the landlords are able to offset the cost by 50% to renters, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So are the landlords able to ask the renters for 50% of that so that they can pay it within the 60 days? Or what way are they going to be able to obtain that money if they do decide to go that route with their renters?
They have to divide it within the rent. So they have to give proper notice to let them know that, hey, your rent is going to be increased by this much based on the new rental registry fees. So if we're looking at $156 for that unit, that is broken down over 12 months. And the landlord is paying half of that and passing the other half to the tenant.
But just to clarify, the landlord does have to pay within 60 days once the notice is given.
That's correct.
In full.
If they have 3 units, then it's 3 times 156, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
So assuming that a landlord has more than 2, 3, 4, 5 units, let's say they have 10 units, they still have that same 60-day timeline to pay. That's a significant amount of money. I'm wondering if there is any option for landlords to pay in installments if they're not able to pay the full amount. I don't know, I'm just curious.
Well, the ordinance itself has been out for more than a year now, and they've understood that this was coming. We've given notice, we've asked them to register. So most of these landlords, they're going to know that there's going to be a fee coming up. So for a whole year, they haven't had this fee. And I understand what you're saying. There is some flexibility that we could have in terms of paying for that. But at the end of the day, it is going to be due and payable within that time frame. I can also pass this on to our city attorney, see if she has any comments on that. Norma, do you feel that we have some flexibility in terms of collecting the fee?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we can explore. It's not something that's contemplated within the ordinance, but the department has some flexibility as far as implementing regulations.
And just to be clear, I'm mainly concerned with landlords who have several units. We have apartment buildings that have 10, 12 units. That's a significant cost. So I just want to make sure that this is a lump sum that people have to pay. And yes, they are landlords. Yes, they collect rents, but they also have expenses, repairs and things like that to their properties. So I want to make sure that they're given some flexibility if they need it.
Absolutely. We'll definitely explore that, ma'am.
I believe I brought this question up, but just for clarity, will the it's about the fee. Let me gather my thoughts once again. How do I ask this? Oh, yes. So will the additional fee be allowed to go over the maximum rent increase? So let's say that someone's already raising the rent, the maximum amount, but they're gonna add on the 50%. Are they gonna be allowed to add it on top of the maximum rent increase monthly?
Yes, council member, that's looked at separately from the rent. Similar to capital improvement costs also that are looked separate from the rent. So in answer to your questions, the rent increase itself will be one thing. The registry of 50% will be separate.
Thank you.
And Gus, I wonder if it helps for the council. I think we recently determined what the limit is, the rental increase limit in Bell Gardens is for the current year. If you could explain that to council.
Yes, right now, the most someone could increase rent is 1.9%. And that's based on 50% of the CPI that came up in April. So it goes from April to April. And it gets implemented at the end of the year on November 1st. So it was 4%, if you recall before, and your ordinance indicates a maximum of 4% or 50% of the CPI, whichever is less. In this case, the 1.9 is the lesser. Required to pay.
Understood. And then finally, is there any sort of legalities around flexibility at all? Maybe that could be a normal question, but I know she indicated that there's nothing in the language in the ordinance itself, but I just want to make sure.
Well, there's nothing I would say that is like unpermitted or illegal about giving some flexibility. The only thing to keep in mind is that we want to prevent the city from having to subsidize. We want the whole $1 million and others to be covered. And we know it's going to take some time to get there. Like we were saying, probably going to be at 50% to 80% and so forth. But the sooner we get those fees paid, the sooner we'll get to that point.
What sort of methods have been used to register these units in terms of outreach? Has it been done through online? People have to, they get a letter in the mail and then they come in person. Just to ensure that we're getting the most capacity when it comes to meeting that number.
Absolutely. It's been through mailers to property owners, giving them the actual ordinance to look at and identifying that there's going to be registration required and fees that are coming up. But also emails are very important. We also do phone calls if we don't have emails or other ways of communicating with them. Keep in mind too that we also have the small property owners. If you recall, if you're 4 or less units and you happen to live on the property, then you don't have to pay a rental registry fee. And then on top of that, if you're 3 units or less, then you're exempt from the rent increases too. So I think the council did that to help out the smaller property owners.
Do we have that number? How many small property owners there are in the city?
We do, sir. I remember we provided it back then. I don't have it at hand right now.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
I have a question. So it would cost approximately $1 million to budget for the best practice program. Assuming we receive full payment from the owners upfront, we would be running at a deficit of 500,000 for the year, essentially, because we would get monthly payments from the tenants, right?
The registry itself, if it's paid, whether it comes from the landlord or the tenant, it's covering all the units. If we were at 100% registration of units within the city of Bell Gardens, we would be at the $1,020,000.
But council member, I think too, it's the timing of the payment. So the expectation and the ordinance requires the property owner to pay us 100% of that fee. And then they're allowed to recoup half of that from the tenant over a year. But if all of the property owners were to pay their fee appropriately, we would have $1 million immediately. Does that help answer the question?
Yes.
That is correct, sir. And I think what you're getting at is that the rental registry.
Wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person, and we did not receive any written communication.
Bruce A. Crow.
All right. Hate to bust the socialist bubble here, but you have absolutely no business getting involved with a homeowner and a tenant renter of theirs. That is a contract between those two individuals. And they don't need you to help enforce it. Now, you've got other talk of flexibility and things of that nature. My clock hasn't started yet. Keep me updated. What if the renters decide to not pay? Gonna evict them? I don't think you should. What if the homeowner decides to not pay? Situation, you don't have that. You are telling the renters that they're gonna have to depend on you because you're gonna protect them against the evil landlords. But then you want to act like you're being flexible and saying, well, if you have 4 units, you don't have to pay anything. So you're just going to punitively punish the big landowner. That's all you're doing. It doesn't work unless everybody has to pay, and we don't live in that type of country. You have freedom here and liberty to do what you want with your own property. You can own your own property. You can buy your own property. You can rent some of your property out. But you take the risk. The tenant may tear your place apart because they don't own anything and they don't care. And then you got landlords that won't improve any situation for a tenant because they don't care either. You just live in the squalor that I provide for you, and that's it. And then they're going to have to look to the city council, who has no idea how to run anything. All you're doing is expanding the bureaucracy here, and it's a big government grab. That's all it is, for $1 million. That's all it is. You have no business running any of these people's lives. Get out of their lives, leave them alone, let the landowners and the tenants work out their own situations themselves. That is the best way to do it. Otherwise, we're going to have to live in a situation like North Korea or the Soviet Union or Venezuela. We don't want that here. Freedom and liberty and cooperation and rights for the individual and the homeowners and the landowners. Thank you.
Do we have any virtual comments?
No, we don't have anyone participating virtually.
If there's no objection by members of the City Council Successor Agency, I will now close public participation for hearing item number 1.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez
Yes.
and Mayor Sanchez.
No. We'll now move to public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Public participation is now open. City Clerk, please announce the instructions for public participation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the council. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, subject to an overall 30-minute period unless announced otherwise. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through Zoom may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will first hear from speakers that are in person. We did not receive any written communications.
Bruce A. Crow.
Buenas noches otra vez. Feliz Reyes,
Good
residente.
evening again, Feliz Reyes, president of Cudahy. No oigo, no oigo, no oigo. No se oye, disculpen, señores, es que, oh, I'm sorry, we're not unable to hear this comment in Spanish at this time. You need to do something to fix the lighting in Ford Park. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, non-agenda, a couple of things. The caregivers, you can't begin to appreciate what they go through. Yeah, it's noble taking care of a family member, and that's still tough, depending on what issues are involved. The real problem for them, and they get absolutely no help with, is when they have to go and ask for are going to start their trial. They've gotten extensions till January for embezzling, bribery, tons of money, 18 counts against them. One was the general manager of the Central Basin Municipal Water District. They have, we think they're going to get 6 years in prison for what they've done. However, they have some friends around, and we know now that there is an attorney either here or in Downey that they have hired as a consultant to be the fixer between them and George Gascon. And we don't know exactly who it is. It may be Miss Vasquez. It may be our prosecuting attorney in Downey. It may be our new city attorney in Downey, but we'll find out. We can get their 700 forms or their 460 forms, and we'll find out. But there's a lot of underhanded stuff going on with this water, and they're not telling you how polluted and contaminated our water is, especially in Downey. We have 19 wells that are contaminated, and it's going to cost $90 million to clean it up. The issue is the EPA can't trust our city council to do the right thing with the money. So they have to hire an outside nonprofit to come in and take care of this issue. I'm not a big fan of nonprofits, but that's what has to be done because councils cannot be trusted. And that's why you guys are being recalled. You residents don't trust you.
Do you have any virtual callers?
No, we do not have anyone virtually attending.
If there's no objection by members of the city council, successor agency, I will now close public participation.
Okay, one last time. Number 22. A resolution with the city council, City of Bell Gardens authorizing the submittal of the Thriving Communities grant applications. Here you are applying for another grant because you don't have the money to make a thriving community. Why doesn't one of you come up with a proposal and lead a campaign to lower the sales tax in this town by 1 whole percentage point? Put more money in the people's pockets so they could spend more money and create more economic growth. It doesn't sound good to you guys, does it? You know what's best for contaminated water, just like you have done for your residents. You allowed the contaminated water to pass through and you charge your residents. I mean, is it any wonder nobody trusts you? You're not going to handle the situation properly. Just look at the marijuana thing. There was no demand over here for pot shops in this town. Zero. Zero. But you went ahead and did it anyway, and your corrupt mayor resigned for other reasons than what was actually rumored going around. She was more worried about card parlors, the group that she was a part of, a big conflict of interest. Anyway, we need you to be trusted, and right now that's not the case. You need to give the money back, whatever settlement you get from 3M and all the rest of them. You need to give it back to the residents for however long you've been allowing them to be charged for contaminated water.
Are there any virtual speakers?
No, we do not have anyone participating virtually.
If there's no objection by the members, I will now close public participation. City Manager, will you please give your report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sanchez. First off, we've got a lot of things that have gone on and are coming up due to the holiday season. So just right off the bat, I just want to thank the council for their direction, staff for carrying out the work, and for residents and other stakeholders for participating in all of the events and workshops and that we've held and are holding in the next couple of weeks. So just looking back a couple of weeks since the last council meeting, Neighborhood Watch had a business watch meeting here at City Hall in the evening. On the 27th, Spirit Family Centers held their annual domestic violence awareness walk from City Hall to Veterans Park. Everybody was encouraged to wear purple for that walk in recognition of domestic violence. On October 28th, Bell Gardens hosted our first ever benefits enrollment fair at Veterans Park with the LA County Department of Public Social Services so that residents could be helped to apply for services and programs that they qualify for. On Halloween, obviously, we had our big Halloween event with a really nice Dia de los Muertos to the park and see the fire department do a demonstration of CPR that could save somebody's life. November 21st, we've got our rent stabilization workshop for the property owners at 4 p.m. here at City Hall. The following day, we have our workshop for tenants at 4 p.m. at City Hall. And then coming up as we get closer to our next council meeting on November 30th, we'll have our Christmas tree lighting ceremony. So this year we're going to have the big tree at Veterans Park. This way it's more safe for families that are enjoying that large tree to take pictures during the holiday season without having to potentially be put in peril with the traffic here on Garfield. We will still have a good sized tree out here at City Hall. But the main tree and the tree lighting and hot chocolate and an event will occur at Veterans Park this year. And then coming up already less than a month from now, on Saturday, December 9th, is the Winter Wonderland and Holiday Parade. So there are a lot of things that have been going on. I'd like to just, again, thank staff for the work, but particularly like to thank the Recreation Community Services Department. A lot of these events have been flowing through them. In addition, as always, to our Public Works Department, our Police Department, our Community Development Department, and again, for the residents for participating and the council for giving us the direction to do these things. The last thing I'd just like to say, Mayor, is on this agenda. So we've got 25 to 27 items on this agenda. Staff has been really busy at work, carrying out all of the policies and requests that the council has given us, throughout the year. And if you look through the agenda, I don't think there's anything that some resident has an interest in. So if I just mention some of the very things that are included in here, interpretation services, as some of us are here using today, renewal of our city website at a very low cost compared to what other people are paying. Grant applications for thriving communities, for community resiliency areas, for future disasters. We're soliciting bids for the actual construction of the aquatic center. So our anticipation is we bring a contract to council at the first meeting in January so we can hire a firm that actually will bring the equipment and do the demolition and do the work on the aquatic center. So that's a big deal. We've got a stormwater improvement project at Veterans Park at the city yard that's included in this consent agenda, as well as slurry sealing of our streets. We've also got on the discussion items, the naming of the mobile app, and last but not least, a first time no cost spay and neuter program for residents that's run directly by the city and would potentially be subsidized by the city as well. So just a closeout, just thank you to the mayor, thank you to the council for the opportunity for staff to really get in there and do all of this varied work. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now 23.
Yes. Thank you. To create a mobile app as part of that direction, also through the ad hoc committee and through the council, we were given direction to hold a naming contest as opposed to staff or the council just coming up with names that we thought made sense. We'd put it out there to the residents. Without going into too much more detail, our assistant to the city manager, Hyla Soto, worked on the surveys that we put out in the process. And he has a presentation here to give you some of the background and then move forward to where we are today. And we're excited for the council to select a name for the new city mobile app. That's one of the pieces we're missing to being able to implement this project. So I'll turn it over to the assistant to the city manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Thank you, Mike, for the quick introduction. So this is the, after a long anticipated process, we'll be sharing the results of the contest for the naming of the feature app. Just a quick background, back in September, the city council authorized a professional service agreement with GoGov to develop the new city app, mobile app. And again, just as a reminder to the residents and stakeholders that the app will allow residents and stakeholders to report issues to city department by writing a description, submitting photos, and then sending a location that is easily pinpointed on the map. As part of the process, as the city council asked for, a contest is an app you can pick from the garden and carry it with you everywhere you go. And number 3 was BG Civica with 43 votes. And Civica means civic in Spanish, and it's relating to the city or town and everything about it. So it's now staff's recommendation that the city council select the name for the new city mobile app. And just as a reminder, as part of the promotional throughout the announcement that was made for the contest, the resident that submitted the winning name will receive a $100 gift card, while the 2 runner-up submittals will receive a $50 gift card, and those were donated by AMLO. Thank you, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
And so just to summarize, thank you, Hylas.
Something people participating.
Any other comments or questions?
I'd like to also add thank you to staff. I saw some of the banners put around the parks as well, kind of advertising the app. It's really great to see that information is being dispersed in multiple ways. So glad to see the folks that responded and were active, and glad to see I saw the full list of names. We had quite a few very different names, but I think the three choices provided were pretty good choices as well. Thank you.
I want to go ahead and thank staff. I know this is something that has been brought up in the past about doing an app, but finally being able to have the support of the city council and the staff to really move this forward and making it implemented and becoming a reality now here in our city is great to hear. All the participants as well that submitted a name. And so with that, I'd like to make a motion to.
And maybe we have one here actually. I'll let Hylas take it away. Go ahead, Hylas.
Thank you, Mike. So the BG Connect was submitted by Alexander Gill, and I believe he is here in the audience. So thank Thank you for being to be present at the council.
Since you're
Meeting.
present, do you mind if we take a picture with you since you were able to name our app? All right, and we'll present. Yeah, awesome. And we'll present you with a gift card as well.
Ups names were also submitted by the same resident. It's a Joao Morales. So we will make sure that the gift cards are sent out and provided to resident Morales as well. Thank you, Mayor.
City Manager, will you please announce discussion item 24?
Thanks again, Mayor Sanchez. This item is the local commission's appointment list. It's staff's recommendation that the council review the commission's appointments list and by motion remove commissioners and or make appointments to the posted vacancies. Thank you, Mayor.
Does any member of the council have any changes to make at this time?
Yes, I would like to appoint someone to the Education Commission. I'd like to appoint Victoria Merembe to the Education Commission. I spoke with her. I have reviewed her application, and I think she will be a great addition to the commission.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Gomez, second by Mayor Pro Tem Chavez. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Barsana,
Yes.
Councilmember Gomez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulido,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Yes.
And Mayor Sanchez.
Yes. Does any member have any?
Attention in an area that we could potentially utilize some resources to help the cat population from continuing to increase due to the inability for some residents to be able to pay or to even get a slot in to have a no cost or very low cost spay and neuter program. So this is the solution that we've come up with. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Director Nava. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Kelly. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I have a very brief presentation to share with you the cat and spay neuter program. Oh yeah, I'm okay, thank you. The city currently partners with Vet Care Pet Clinic to host a mobile pet clinic here in Bell Gardens at Veterans Park, and they come the third Sunday of every month. They offer a mobile low-cost pet vaccines, physical exams, flea control, diagnostic testing, and other services on site. They do not, however, do on-site spay and neutering, but they do have a referral program where they will refer residents to a hospital in Garden Grove for low-cost spay and neuter. However, the current wait list for that referral is approximately 6 months. Some cat-owning residents had expressed their concerns regarding the long wait times to get into the low-cost spay and neuter clinic, and also the distance to drive to Garden Grove for their spay and neuter of their cats. And so the Recreation and Community Services staff are proposing to host our own cat spay and neuter program here for Bell Gardens residents. The program will provide income eligible residents with $150 to go towards the spay or neuter of a Inc. Clinic and then the Norwalk Animal Hospital Clinic. There were unfortunately no clinics in Bell Gardens that we would be able to partner with. We did reach out to some surrounding clinics in closer cities. However, unfortunately, they received poor ratings. And so we decided to reach out a little bit further into the city of Norwalk, where these 3 hospitals are already currently doing a similar program with the city of Norwalk. So they're very willing and very familiar. And they all have acceptable ratings for our residents. So the suggested dollar amount for this program would be $20,000 per fiscal year. And that comes out to about 130 cats a year to be spayed or neutered. And like I said before, the plan would be for the funds to renew every fiscal year. However, budget appropriation from the general fund would need to be made. So this program will address the concerns that the residents have expressed regarding the ability to get low cost and quality spay and neuter for their cats in a timely and cost-effective manner. So staff recommends, excuse the long recommendation, but I'm going to read it officially, to adopt a resolution establishing a cat spay and neuter program and authorize the city manager to execute professional services agreements subject to city attorney approval as to form with contractors and to appropriate $20,000 per fiscal year for the cat spay and neuter program. And that concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions.
Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Yes. So, yes, we need cat spay neuter programs. What about dogs?
Liz, before you even answer, I think there's some statistical information that kind of helps explain some of it that we were talking about earlier. So cats apparently reproduce at 3 times the rate of dogs. So cats can have 5 litters per year. So in the 6 months that they wait, they can have as many as 12 kittens. So we tried to address it. It seemed that there was an acute problem with cats, primarily based on their ability to reproduce. I think we saw 2 cats in 7 years could produce 420,000 cats, as compared to dogs. So that was the reason we focused on cats from a cost perspective and also from trying to fix the acute problem.
Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I wanted to inquire about SIACA, and I should know this because I'm on the board there, but do you know how much it is for the spay and neuter for the cats?
No, I apologize, Councilman Barcena. I don't know the number off the top of my head. SIACA does offer discounted spay and neuter as well for Bell Gardens residents. I believe they also have a pretty lengthy wait list as well, but I can get the exact dollar amount for you.
I'm only asking because I know they offer what's called low cost, but I don't know what that cost is. And my question would be if it's lower cost than the 150, would that make a difference to the council? You know,
Councilmember Barson, I think if I understand correctly, I think the wait was even longer, up to 12 months with the SIACA program. And I also think it was approximately $150 as well for the SIACA's program. They would pay up to $150. But I think our
wait times that they have and actually have had successful programs, and their cat and spay neuter program that they're doing with the city of Norwalk is a low impact to their operations. So it's actually very successful for them.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Thank you so much for staff for moving and putting this forward to us. I had a resident whose name is Grace Garcia, who had reached out multiple times, had reached out to LA County and their departments to see what they had. LA, the city of LA, vet care, SIACA as well. I mean, I think in some occasions we've had residents come forward and kind of share and express the work that SIACA has done. And I'm really happy to see this item before us. I do have a couple of questions, but just to kind of also add a little bit more details about cats. And, you know, I'm not a cat owner. I don't have any cats, don't have any pets. But I just did a quick lookup and I was surprised to find out that feral cats, which I guess are cats that are in the wild that are not, that don't have owners, they can get
Contract executed with the various hospitals, but I would think within a month, we would probably be able to turn this around and get this going.
perfect. And then my second question is there a process that's used to verify, obviously, Bell Gardens residents? I know that there's some limits when it comes to how many cats they can spay and neuter. I think it was 2 per household. That would be 2 per address, correct? Okay.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
Awesome. All right. Other than that, I'm thank you to staff for putting this forward. Appreciate it.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023-109 and appropriate funds towards the spray and neuter program. May I get a second?
Second.
Motion by
Also, I also want to take this opportunity to thank basically all of the directors. There's been a little bit more work than usual lately, whether it's resident complaints or maybe working on a program that we're currently developing, and whether it's the construction in the alleys that's going on right now, or other issues relating to housing and our tenants. I really feel like you guys are doing a great job, and I want to thank you and let you know that I appreciate what you do. And I also want to thank you for your patience, because I know how much patience all this requires, and don't think for a second that I'm not conscious of that, because I really truly am. And that goes for Mike too. Thank you, Mike, for everything that you do. And I'm glad to see a lot of business getting done here in the city. That's all for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes, as well, I would like to thank staff for all of the work that you do. The Veterans Day event was, and as long as they are eligible for Medi-Cal, they can apply for the in-home supportive services program. What in-home supportive services does is that it allows people to stay in their home as opposed to having to move into a residential facility to have their needs met. They are allowed to stay in their homes, to live with dignity, and to be cared for by either a family member. The family member does receive a salary for that. If they do not have a family member that can take care of them, they can always reach out to the Personal Assistance Care Registry Personal Assistance Services Council. Let me correct myself. And the number for Personal Assistance Services Council is 818-206-7000. So I do recommend that anyone who is in need, if you have a family member that needs care at home, you're not able to provide them, maybe you have a full-time job, it's safer for people to walk around. The new walking path that was recently opened across from the sports complex there, I mean, that's great. You can walk all the way around, but there are a lot of people there, so it isn't always convenient. There are a lot of cars there. I walk through there myself. There are a lot of cars, there's a lot of traffic, you have a lot of spectators there. So it isn't the most ideal spot to walk in. So if we can get some of that lighting up at Ford Park, that would be wonderful. And I think the residents would appreciate it, so they can get their mobility and walkability on. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I just remembered something due to the parks comment, but it's sort of a question for the director. Is there lighting improvements scheduled with, are there lighting improvements scheduled with the grant that is lined up? I know we're building a new playground there. Is there any lighting that's going to go into that?
There is actually lighting as part of the aquatic center project. It does cover almost $900,000 worth of electrical and lighting. In regard to the other improvements, I don't think it includes lighting. There was an assessment done for lighting improvements, so we would just need to find an allocation for grant funding or other sources for that.
Thank you.
Yes, Council, if I can just add, so I think obviously first up, we can make sure the lights are coming on at the right time. Make sure.
One last one. I know that you guys are going to be looking into writing a new grant made with assistance of a nonprofit organization. But I wanted to follow up. I don't know if this is the same grant, but it was just brought to my attention that there is a grant by the California Department of Parks and Recreation. It's an outdoor equity grants program. Is that the one that they're helping you guys with?
No, I
No.
think that's the other one's an urban greening.
Oh,
program,
okay.
so
Well,
different.
this one here, the deadline's in December 14th, and it's a $50 million grant. So if it's already on your radar, good job. If it's not, I would like to maybe look into it. Thank you.
Councilmember Pulido,
No comments from me.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Thank you so much, everybody, for a productive meeting. First off, I'd like to thank staff for an incredible Halloween event and Dia de los Muertos exhibit we had. As always, every year it continually gets better, and I just really appreciate all the work that staff has done to make it these events very successful. I think for me, growing up in the community, having gone to those parks, it's really great to see that we're having these programs, having these events here locally, right? One of the big messages that I always like to focus with the community is we don't have to go to the west side. We don't have to go to OC, to the Orange County. We don't have to go to Beverly Hills to get these programs. We have them right here in our own backyard, walking distance for a lot of the times from your home. So I just again want to thank our Department of Recreation and Community Services, our Public Works for always stepping it up, our PD for always keeping us safe out there. So just again, all departments for the amazing work that you continually do. Also, I recall there was also the fishing derby. So great. I'm always glad to see that we partner up with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I'm glad to see that event also come up again. There was also the Spirit Family Services dinner we attended last week. I think me and Mayor Sanchez this week on Tuesday from Downey High School from 12 to 2. So I don't know if maybe staff has already had that on the radar, but I know I've been starting to get messages already from families reaching out about turkey. So I think a great opportunity to partner up. And then finally, just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving week. I don't believe we'll be meeting that time, but we'll be meeting again in December. So happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. And then also happy following day, Native American Heritage Day. So appreciate that. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you to staff. I just want to echo everything that my colleagues have said. You know, we have a lot coming up, especially it being the closing of the year with all the holidays and the different events. And I know this agenda was relatively long and all of you worked really hard on it. I also want to thank all the residents who continuously show up to our events, right? This is the reason why we put on these events is for the residents. So continue showing up to the events, and thank you also to everyone that submitted a name, and I'm glad that we finally got to decide on the name for the app, which is going to be BG Connect. And I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving as well. Have a great night. If there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn the City Council Successor Agency Joint Meeting.